How do you find your enough to retire? Finding your enough can be incredibly difficult, particularly if you are years off retirement. And it's important to realize that your enough can be completely different to your friend, to your colleague, to your parents, and even to those who you might today have quite a similar life to. So in this video, we're going to go through how to find your enough, what the different levels of retirement actually look like, and how you can go about specifically finding your number. I'm Jarrad Brown, Australian expat financial planner here in Singapore, working with Australian expats to define their enough and to plan for their future retirement. So let's dive right in. Now, in economic terms or financial terms, finding our enough means that we are getting the greatest level of fulfillment per dollar that we actually spend. So in economic terms, this is maximizing utility. And this is best represented in the chart that you can see here. As we spend more dollars, you'll see that we hit this maximum point, and that is our enough, whereby we have enough money to spend on what makes us truly happy and what aligns with our values. And this really ties into the retirement levels or retirement categories when we look at a modest retirement, which you can see here on the bottom left, a comfortable retirement, and then a luxury retirement. And that luxury retirement is really where it is our enough. That is where beyond that point it is too much and we've gone beyond what we actually need to truly make us happy. So let's have a look at what the ASFA defines as how much we need to actually achieve those levels of retirement and to be happy in our retirement years. Let's have a look. Now, as I mentioned, there are three key categories of retirement. The first is a modest retirement. This is where we have enough to cover the basic necessities. It is greater than the age pension, but certainly not enough to really cover replacing shoes, clothing when they're worn out on a regular basis, maybe enough for a very modest domestic holiday once a year, and not really enough to be dining out on a regular basis or beyond sort of budget haircuts. You'll see a bit of a summary shortly in a table where we look at the comparison between the modest, comfortable, and luxury retirements. Now, in a comfortable retirement, this is where we can go for regular haircuts. In Australia, importantly, we don't have any concerns about keeping the air conditioning on, so utility bills are not a major concern for us. We can dine out once or twice a week at different restaurants. We can take a once a year domestic holiday and a once every few years, depending on the amount we spend. The ASFA, the Association of Super Funds in Australia, believes that is once every 7 years to be taking an international holiday. In some cases, that could be a little more frequently. Obviously, it depends on how much we spend. And the luxury category of retirement, as I mentioned, where we're getting the greatest fulfillment for every dollar that we spend in retirement, this is where we're obviously not worried about haircuts. We can take one or two overseas holidays every year. We can replace the clothes, the shoes when they're worn out. We can obviously buy gifts, buy those luxury goods that make us happy in retirement if that aligns with our own values. Again, it's important to recognize that a luxury retirement or that level of spending may not actually be suitable to everyone. It may not align with our underlying values. Somebody who believes spending $5,000 on the latest MacBook is a great idea, and somebody who believes that is a complete waste of money, it doesn't mean that one is right or one is wrong, despite being a big lover of Apple products myself. It just means that one aligns with the values of one person and not with the other. So it's important to work out exactly where you sit and what level of spending is really going to make you happy in retirement. Now let's have a look at the actual numbers behind each of these categories. So again, looking at what the ASFA estimates that you need to retire in Australia. For a modest retirement, they estimate that you need approximately $43,000 for a couple to achieve that modest retirement. So we're not far above the age pension in Australia, but we are a little enough, which is what gives us the ability to fund some of those other lifestyle decisions, those lifestyle expenses, above and beyond what a pension would cover. For a comfortable retirement, that would mean that as a couple, we would need about $66,000 per year in after-tax money. Now, I should highlight that these figures are assuming that we own our own home. So there are no rental expenses or mortgage expenses factored into these numbers. If you're not planning on owning your own home, if you're planning to have a mortgage in retirement, then obviously you would need to add that annual repayment to these figures that we're running through today. And for a luxury retirement, this is where there is a lot more variation because it depends and varies between each individual. But across our client base and across the plans that we are putting together for our clients, we are looking at a luxury retirement starting anywhere from $85,000 and working all the way up to $1 million a year. Now, again, there is no right or wrong. It does depend on your own situation and what aligns with your own values. So that's roughly how much we would need coming into our bank account each year to give us that lifestyle that we desire. Now, let's have a look at how we actually work out, well, how much do we need in total and how much do we really need? Where do we actually sit between each of those three categories? Let's explore the different models. Now, there are three different rules of thumb when it comes to determining how much you need to retire. The first, which you may have heard of, is the 4% rule. This means you take your annual amount of money that you need to retire. So how much do you need coming into your bank account every month, multiplied by 12 to live the life that you want in retirement. You obviously multiply that by 12, you divide that by 4%, and that is what gives you the number that you need to have saved in your retirement portfolio. So for example, if we need $100,000 a year, we divide that by 4%, and that gives us $2.5 million per year, $2.5 million in total that we need to fund our retirement. Now, the next rule of thumb is the 70% rule. This means we take 70% of our annual income and we assume that that is how much we would need in retirement. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of this one because particularly for Australian expats, incomes can vary incredibly. Depends on how many kids we have, what the school fees look like, what tax rates we're paying, but it does give us a bit of a rough guide. So if you are earning, let's say $200,000 per year, you would take 70% of that, which is $140,000, and that's how much you would need each year to fund your retirement. Now, the next rule of thumb is what they call the 25-year rule. So you simply take your annual amount that you need to spend and you multiply it by 25. It really is just another way of wording or describing the 4% rule. So again, if we need $100,000 a year, we multiply that 100,000 by 25, which gives us $2.5 million. So you can see where we get the same number as the 4% rule, it's just a different calculation, very slightly. Now, what I would say is a far better tool is to actually utilize a budget calculator. Yes, it is a bit of a mundane process. It does mean a bit more work, but it is going to be tailored to you. So you can utilize the Money Smart calculator from ASIC. There are a number of different tools online, and obviously you can utilize ours as well. You'll find a link in the notes, and this will give you a guide of how much you actually think you'll need to spend when you retire. It breaks down the different categories. You can look at how much you think you'll need to spend on holidays, how much on rent or mortgage if that is going to apply, what you'll spend on utilities, memberships, gifts, donations to charity, whatever it may be, it is tailored to you. So now that we have an idea of the different categories of really what we're trying to achieve in defining our own enough, and we have some general rules of thumb, what should you actually do next to define yours? Let's have a look. So as we've been through today, the first step is really defining how much money you need coming in each month to live the lifestyle that you would like to live, whether it's in the modest, the comfortable, or the luxury category. Obviously, as I mentioned, we really want to be targeting that maximum fulfillment from each dollar that we spend. The second is to make sure that that amount does accurately reflect your own values. So we're not simply taking it from a website that said, this is how much you need to retire, or you're doing it because your friend or your colleague said that's enough. It really needs to be based on your own values. The third key step is to make sure that it does reflect any tax rates that could apply. So here we're getting a bit more into the nuts and bolts, but if your retirement income is going to come solely from rental income from properties, the tax rate and the cost of generating that income may be a lot higher than, say, from a portfolio of dividend-paying shares. So that's certainly an important step. Now, once you've defined those first three, you've got a couple of options. You can book in a free 30-minute discussion with myself to start reviewing your own plans, defining your enough and the steps that you need to take to get there. If you're not quite ready for a one-to-one chat with myself, not quite ready to engage a financial planner, that is absolutely fine. I've also built a free online tool where you can explore your how much is enough. So you can answer a few questions, it's personalized to you, we will get that and we will come back to you with some general suggestions, general things that you should be thinking about. And if you wish to take that to a one-to-one discussion, you're more than welcome to. If you don't, that is absolutely fine also, but I'm sure you'll get a lot of value out of it. So thank you very much for tuning into this video. I hope that it shed a bit of light in defining your how much is enough. But if you have any questions at all, drop me a note in the comments. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.